Hello, welcome to Ian Summerall's channel. I've got a channel called Somerset News Network, which I run in the UK, and we sort of have little chats and explain things and have a rant. And I've also got a SNN second channel, which is my little short, up to 10 minutes, little videos. Anyway, that's to explain the sign. Now, this is my American English channel where I try and talk geopolitics, if you want to call it that. And I'm watching the news from the United States. We've had the hurricane last week that went through, that devastated. A little bit of trouble in Florida, but Georgia, North Carolina and East Tennessee got hit really bad. It was on the BBC for about a day, maybe 2 days, and that was it. It was gone. Like, it happened and that was it. It looks like the mainstream media in America is also playing it down. Fox has done a few good, what I would call magazine pieces on it, explaining what's happening. The best channels for getting information on what's happening on the ground is social media, TikTok and YouTube and Facebook. The YouTubers and social media people have done a brilliant job explaining about what's happening in their area and showing it. There was one video I watched this morning, and a helicopter came in, no markings on it, very suspicious. Came over a food feeding station and supply camp that had been set up by the locals, and people from out of state were coming in and giving them supplies. It came down and used its blade to throw everything everywhere. What is the government in America doing? America has turned into a banana state in front of my very eyes. I love America. I've had 2 trips to the States and I've had a wonderful time. I did a road trip from Salt Lake City up to Montana, all through Idaho, up through the Rockies. And the road that we were going on was the Lewis and Clark Trail. And there were signs all the way along. And when you tour America, I've been to Arizona as well. I spent 2 weeks in Arizona, and I lectured in Yavapai Gunsmithing College out there. Because me being a gunsmith, and we went out there and we talked about English gun law and how the pistol ban was affecting me. And we had a great time. The guys were brilliant. And I'm still friends with them on Facebook 15 years later. And when you tour the States and you drive around, they're very community orientated. And you've got signs on the side of the road for a church or a scout group. And they look after a stretch of road and they pick up the rubbish and clean it up. And it is clean. You drive around England and it's a bloody mess. You know, what I like is the community spirit in America. And I think this last hurricane has showed that to its full. Neighbours looking after themselves, communities looking after themselves, and people from outside coming in to help. And what does the government do? We're hearing stories about FEMA. Glenn Beck, I think he's done a brilliant job. He's sent aid. Elon Musk, he sent aid. Trump has even been down there and sent aid. I think his daughter is organising the aid flights. And she also helped get 600 Starlink into the Appalachian Mountains and North Carolina. They know what they're doing, the people on the ground. Yes, they need help. They need helicopters and they need supplies. The water treatment plants have been washed away. The roads have been washed away. So they're doing it for themselves. Now, what I was talking about, Glenn Beck. Sorry, I go off on a tangent sometimes. It's the way I think. Now, Glenn Beck goes out there and he sees FEMA. And they're in a truck behind the building, in the car park. And he asks what they're doing there. And you can see, Glenn is biting his tongue. He wants to really have a go at them. But he's as nice as ninepence to them. He said, they're there to take names and then the people will get $750. The people have lost the roads, they've lost their cars, they've lost their homes, and the government's going to give them $750? Unbelievable. If you had slight damage in your house, I can understand. But when you've been absolutely decimated by the flood water and your home is no longer there, what do you do? $750 is like an insult. You know, America has turned into a banana state. And what do they tell us? Oh, FEMA says they run out of money. Well, where's all the money gone that was allocated for emergencies? They've been helping the illegal immigrants. Well, they're criminals, aren't they? Why should... It's Britain's doing the same as well. France is letting them get into boats and come halfway across the channel. Then we're using our boats to go out and pick them up. They're illegal. And they process them. And then they put them up in hotels. Up by Bristol Airport, there's a hill, and you go down the hill. It used to be a Holiday Inn. It's called something else now. And a friend of mine comes down to me, stays for the night, and then sometimes he'll go to the Holiday Inn while he's waiting for his flight. It might be a weekend or whatever. And he tried to book up at the Holiday Inn. He came to my place, said hello. I said, oh no, I'm not staying the night. I'm going down the hotel. So he drives down the hotel. 2 hours later, he's back on my doorstep. I said, oh, I thought you were staying at the hotel. It's closed. It's full of migrants. It's what? It's full of migrants. And when you go down there, or you drive past, I had to go down in the morning, about 10 o'clock one morning, and we're coming back, and the migrants are outside on the bus stop. And there's two groups, and they're split. And looking at the body language, there's no recognition of each other. They're two separate groups. Now, I'm used to watching people. I used to be a bouncer in nightclubs and do discos and things. And I was also a youth worker. And we used to run a disco in a church hall with 300 kids at a time. And we used to watch people. So I'm used to watching people and watching body language to try and make sure there was no trouble starting. So these two groups are not talking to each other. One group are black guys, obviously from Africa, and the other guys are Muslim from Eastern Europe. And they don't meet. They hate each other. And they're in the same hotel. And we're paying for them to be there. We're giving them free internet, free phone, and plus cash. £43, I think somebody said they get, which is our unemployment benefit, which is the basic starter. But they've got free housing, free food, and free internet, and free phone on top. Now, we find out now, the same in America. It's the same setup with illegal immigrants in the southern border in America and with the English Channel. What you have is you have a non-government organisation, a company. In Britain it's called Serco, and Serco finds the housing for the illegals. Serco rents the flats, houses, hotels. and then charges the government. How much is the government paying? We don't know. It's now a state secret. You cannot find out how much the government is paying for illegal migrants. It's got to be millions. And it's in the interests of a company to keep the people coming over so they get more money. And the more immigrants that come in, it's not in their interest to stop it. So how much money has Serco paid our MPs or political parties to influence them? I don't know the answer to that. I'm only asking the question. Is the same happening in the States? We know that they say that FEMA money has been used to help fund the illegals in Southern America on the border. They get them, they process them, they give them a ticket to what city they like. Trump, on one of his speeches, was talking about Venezuelan gangs running the town. Well, how are you going to stop this? Biden and Harris aren't going to do it. I've got to admit, I wasn't really a fan of Trump. I found him bolshy, But as time's gone on, I'm thinking, this guy knows what he's doing. This guy is brilliant. And I think everybody in America ought to vote for Trump. And I hope he gets in, because that's the only way we're going to save the American banana republic. If Harris gets in, you will be a communist state. And that's all there is to it. It's simple. Harris's father was a communist. She's a communist. Trump calls her comrade. And she's got no policy. She hasn't said anything. Well, if she doesn't say anything and doesn't come up with policies, they then can't complain that she hasn't told you what she's going to do. You see, it's clever stuff, you see. Now, back to the hurricane damage. I'd like to thank every volunteer. You are brilliant people. You look after your own. And the best you can do is keep FEMA out of it. Just ask them for the money and you'll supply everything for everybody. Do it at the state level and the county level. Don't worry about FEMA. Glenn Beck met FEMA, that's what I was going to tell you. Glenn Beck met FEMA. And they said, yeah, we're going to go round and everybody's going to get $750. They can download the app on their phone and apply for the $750. They got no electric. They can't charge their phone up. Oh, they can charge it up on their car. But the car has been swept away by the flood. They haven't got a car. Well, that's all right. If they tell us where they are, we will write them a check and we'll put it in the post. Yeah, but that's no good, because their house that was standing is no longer there, so they're not going to get any mail. You can't make this up, can you? Oh, craziness. I hope and pray that this new hurricane that's going to hit Florida tonight and Wednesday is going to cool down a bit and there's not going to be a lot of damage. But I think DeSantis has got the right idea. He's taken all the people out. Mandatory evacuation. I think that's the best way of saving lives. I think the other states should be doing the same similar sort of thing. But they didn't know that the track of the hurricane last week was going to go north. What was FEMA doing? If Trump doesn't get in October, America is going to be in real trouble. Anyway, Ian, signing off.